Now, this story about how psychopharmaca came to the world has two pilots falling down, being shot down over Germany, realizing that the only way they could escape was to climb upon a lazaret train coming from the Eastern Front with all those mental ill SS officers. They are throwing two officers out of the window, placing themselves in the bed, and suddenly, very soon after that, they are being brought to the hospital, das Alphabethaus, in Freiburg. Now, they are simulants. One can speak German, one cannot. This is a thriller. I mean, if you're being placed in one bed, you are having one kind of reality, and in another kind of reality, and they can't speak to each other, and that's bad, because there are other simulants, and they are real evil, you know, real evil. So this is a thriller, das Alphabethaus. Das Alphabethaus was very much inspired by my childhood. I lived in mental hospitals. My father was a psychiatrist. I learned a lot of patients to know. Some were really insane, and some had psychopharmaca and was helped a lot. I was interested in the story of how did the psychopharmaca come to the world? And I knew it was here in Germany. Maybe in the KZ camps, but it wasn't. So I wrote a story about, you know, things happening in a special lazaret called das Alphabethaus with SS officers. That's one part of the story. Another part is about simulants. I knew some simulants when I was a child. A man, you know, burned down his farm and then came into the mental hospital, and suddenly everything that wasn't there before happened for him. Meals 3 times a day, security, you know, a nice bed, something he wasn't used to happened there. My father said to me, Jussi, sometimes the patients, they are getting ill from society. Try to imagine my salary taken from me and given to the insane patient, who is most insane after that. I learned about empathy, I learned about a lot of social structure in the mental hospital, and about simulants. Das Alphabethaus is not a war story. It's turning on in the war. It is. It's a story about deceiving and being deceived. And if you're having a setup that original like the Second World War, you are of course having the possibility of a lot of deceivers. My 2 persons, I placed them in the Second World War in Germany because this is a gorgeous country when we're thinking about the nature. And Schwarzwald, mit Taubergissen, the only more real swamp in Europe, is a perfect setup for this. So that's why. I mean, it could have been taking place in Balkan, everywhere, but Germany and Schwarzwald, that's the best place you can ever have a location. It's a little bit strange how the title arrived, Das Alphabethaus. It's a lazaret. It's in Germany. It's during the Second World War, the time of the Nazis. They were very, you know, strict according to systems. And the system here in the Alphabethaus, the lazaret, was that every disease had a number and an alphabet number. Some diseases were not that bad, and some diseases meant that they were going to be executed. It was very strictly ordered, you know. One department was perhaps with the bad alphabet side and one with the good. The problem about our 2 heroes was that they were in the bad part of the alphabet, the one with lots of C's. When I wrote this story, I suddenly realized I hadn't been in Freiburg for many, many years. I couldn't remember everything. So I went down there with my pregnant wife. And we found a military library where they really knew about whatever happened in this district at that period. Very, very interesting for me to speak to a person that knew everything and didn't know what I was going to do with what he told me. But I had to do a lot of research, my God. I had to speak to, the nurses that were placed actually in Germany. How does it look? What did they eat? What was a Sheba like at that period? A bacon. Many, many small details. It had to be accurate, and it took a long, long time to research, especially the war period. Doing a standalone thriller makes you, free of everything. You can just let your fantasy roll. Of course, you need to research, but anyway, you don't have to think about persons from the last book. I have to do that in Sonderdezernat Q. This is a story about Karl and Rose and Assad, and I have to know whatever happened before and before and before the book I'm going to write now. That means I have to read my own books again and again and again, and my wife, she has to help me. She helps me a lot with Sonderdezernat Q. I'm not making the eyes on page 27 blue and 28 brown. There must be some consistency, and it's a hell of a work to make consistency in a story of 4,500 pages, because every book is just a chapter in the long story. Tongue right in the mouth when you're doing a series like this. This is the very first time in this history, as far as I know, that a crime novel has been that long, because things are evolving. They are not only being divorced, not only having children. It's a story in itself for Karl, Rose and Assad. And that's very, very different from making the other political stories.